Psalm 119 is not only the longest of the Psalms, Psalm 119 is the longest chapter in the Bible because every Psalm is a chapter in the Bible. It is an acrostic. An acrostic is a presentation using the alphabet for every verse. In this case, distinctly, of the 9 psalms that are acrostics, this is the only one that is 8 verses per letter. There is a tradition to spell out a person's name through study to bring honor to their name. And that is done when somebody is sick or also at a yurt site. And Psalm 119 is the psalm that is commonly used because there are so many choices of those verses to spell out a name. This psalm is discussed in the Talmud, Brachot 4b, and is called Alpha Beta, like the alphabet in Aramaic, Aleph Beta, V'Temne Alfin, the alphabet of 8 faces. This psalm is used, as we're now on the 12th day of the counting of the Omer, Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, who lived in Sfat in the 16th century, most famous, Rabbi Shlomo Halevi, for the Lechad Dodi. He said of this Psalm 119, it's to be included in the preparation for the receiving of Torah. And so in that earliest mystical Tikkun Leil Shavuot, the repairing on the eve of Shavuot, Psalm 119 was read, in significant part, because the focus of Psalm 119 is the love of the study of Torah. Rabbi Benjamin Siegel will say, more than any other chapter of Torah, this chapter expresses love of Torah. But the word Torah, which appears repeatedly in the psalm, is partnered with many synonyms for God's word. Words like edut, testimonies, pikudim, decrees, amara, declaration, devar, word, chok, statue, mishpat, law, mitzvah, commandment, derech, the way, tzedek, justice. So every verse, almost every verse, there's a couple of exceptions, but only, will have one of those synonyms for teaching. This, again, is a psalm of celebration of learning. And my most recent translation that I'll be now reading has a new title, one of several I've gone through. A verse, How I Have Loved Your Torah. Well, the very middle of this psalm, which was also a temptation in terms of a title along the way, which is verses 88-89, Edut Picha Le'olam, testimony of your mouth forever. You can tell me later which of those you prefer as the title, the middle 3 words or this more direct expression, how I have loved your Torah. Some other things to know as you listen, because my goal will be having you feel the flow of this lengthy psalm. So the first thing to know is you're going to get comfortable in a moment and just allow yourself to feel the waves. This is not a psalm that, if you will, is a progression toward, unfolding of a theme. Rather, this is a psalm with the repeated kinds of messages. And the key message is, I have sought to be faithful to your Torah despite temptations. Therefore, help me, God, against my foes who tempt me, and help me learn your way. And it's repeated in different ways. Remarkably, in this entire lengthy psalm, there are no repeated phrases. Like, Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, thank God for God is good, which we'll get over and over in other psalms. Here, there's no repeated phrases. Remarkably, although there are many repeated words, they're always done a little bit differently. And here's something else to know as you listen. Sometimes a word, like word, your word, God, and then later it'll be my word. So things attributed to God will be the same word used for the psalmist. So there's also that. I think, and you'll hear it as I read it to you, the psalm has a quality of waves. It'll start off in every letter often. Not all the letters are structured the same, but it'll start off with, I am faithful, your Torah is my song. That's a unique phrase to this psalm, calling your testimonies my song. I love them. They are for me sha'ashua, a delight. And then, oh, but those my enemies spoke ill of me, or I did not stray by the temptations. And then it'll come back to a positive. So there's a sense of rhythm to how the psalm is written, short phrases, repetition of words. And here's also to be known, this is a lengthy prayer. And the word I, it's always talking to God directly, except one verse in which the psalmist will speak to his foes. Otherwise, and that is verse 115. Until you get to verse 115, out of the 176 verses, he's talking to God. And then he'll take a break for that one verse to address the foes directly. But it's a lengthy prayer. 400 times there's this quality of I, and over 200 times a quality of you to God. With God's name, the Yud He Vav He, 24 times, plus Elohai, my God, meaning a 25th. Here are the key words that are key themes to know of. Avdecha, your servant, 14 times, plus once Avdechem, meaning your servant, in the plural. Chesed, kindness, 7 times. Tzedek, 14 times, which I translate as justice rather than righteousness, here more for the rhythm. Chaim, life, 14 times, including a phrase that's repeated 9 times, chaneni, which I translate as enliven me. Hoshea, deliver me, 9 times. Lev, heart, which is also mind, 15 times. So you can see the same words, key motifs of God's kindness and justice, deliverance are repeated over and over, along with his own sense of his capacity of mind and love and needing to be enlivened. One last comment, and then I'm going to begin to read. And that is for Benjamin Siegel in particular, of all my commentaries, the last line is a surprise. I'm going to reveal it to you because, again, I reveal it to you to know what to listen for. Here's the last line, which is the longest line, with one other exception that some say might be a scribal change. After describing and often over-describing his loyalty to God and how he is totally committed to God and God's ways, the last line, I have strayed like a lost sheep. Seek your servant, for your commandments I have not forgotten. That's also somewhat of a unique use of the image of being the sheep. In contrast to Psalm 23, where the Lord is my shepherd, meaning God cares for me, here he's self-described as a lost sheep, which means despite all this learning, despite all this testimony of faithfulness, there are hints that this is a psalm prompted by vulnerability of his having strayed. He is a strayed sheep. Tomorrow I'll share some other ways that commentators have understood it, but I will bring to your attention there are 7 verses with a hint of him being pulled by temptation. Verses 28, 29, 37, 59, 67, 115, and 133. But those are just hints of his being tempted by evildoers. Here, self-defining himself as a lost sheep. That's only the last verse. And Benjamin Siegel points out sometimes he may protest too much his faithfulness, which can sound at times in the psalm as having been absolute. Verses 128, 163, 164. And so to pull this introduction together and then to catch my breath and read dramatically 176 verses to you, and then maybe a comment or two, but not much more. And Deidre will tell us why it's her favorite psalm, and we'll do Kaddish. And that is, allow yourself in listening to hear this as a lengthy prayer where the medium is the message. Namely, it's very structured. Structure equals security. The fact that it's Aleph to Tav is a way to convey through you and your law, I have found a framework of life, of living. And so the medium is the message in that regard. And it also is to convey that your way, God, is all-encompassing for me in my life. And one last thought, and that is, it is through your way, through your statutes, that I both find you and live out as your vehicle in the world. That my relationship with you, which is what this psalm is about, it's always the I and you, he's talking to God, is a relationship mediated by your teaching. Here in this psalm, there's no mention of Jerusalem, of the temple, of the priest, though he might be a priest, or because he mentions the night watches, as if he's a participant in night watches of the temple. But this is not, if you will, national or even ritual. It is rather a lengthy personal prayer. And with that, Psalm 119. How I have loved your Torah. Happy are they with integrity of the way, the walkers in the Torah of Adonai. Happy are they who keep God's testimonies. With whole heart they seek God. Indeed, they do no wrong. In God's ways they walk. You have commanded your precepts to observe very much. I implore. May my ways be firmly set to observe your statutes. Then I will not be ashamed when I look to all your commandments. I will give thanks to you with uprightness of heart, with my learning laws of your justice. Your statutes I will observe. Do not forsake me endlessly. How long will a young person keep your way worthy by observing as is your word? With all my heart I have sought you. Do not let me stray from your commandments. In my heart I have treasured your word, so that I would not sin against you. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, Adonai. Teach me your statutes. With my lips I have recounted all laws of your mouth. In the way of your testimonies I have rejoiced as above all riches. In your precepts I will converse and look to your paths. In your statutes I will delight. I will not forget your word. Deal generously with your servant, that I may live, and I will observe your word. Uncover my eyes, and I will look at wonders from your Torah. Ger anochi va'aretz. A sojourner am I on the earth. Do not hide from me your commandments. Shattering is my spirit by yearning for your laws at all times. You have rebuked the proud who are cursed, who stray from your commandments. Remove from me scorn and disgrace, for your testimonies I have kept. Although authorities have sat together, of me they have spoken. Your servant will meditate on your statutes. Also, your testimonies are my delight, my mentors of counsel. Cleaving to the dust is my spirit. Enliven me as is your word. My ways I recounted, and you answered me. Teach me your statutes, the way of your precepts. Let me understand, and I will converse of your wonders. Dissolving is my spirit from sorrow. Sustain me as is your word. A way of falsehood remove from me, and with your Torah grace me. A way of faithfulness I have chosen. Your laws I have placed before me. I have cleaved to your testimonies, Adonai. Do not shame me. The way of your commandments I run, for you expand my heart. Teach me, Adonai, the way of your statutes, and I will keep it at every step. Give me understanding, and I will keep your Torah and observe it with a whole heart. Guide me in the path of your commandments, for in it I delight. Incline my heart to your testimonies and not to gain. Turn away my eyes from seeing vanity. In your ways enliven me. Fulfill for your servant your declaration, which is for those who are in awe of you. Turn away my scorn, which I dread, for your laws are good. Behold, I have yearned for your precepts. In your justice enliven me. And let your kindness come to me, Adonai, your deliverance, as is your word. And I will answer my scorner with a word, for I trust in your word. And take not from my mouth a word of utmost truth, for in your laws I have trusted. And I will observe your law always, forever and ever. And I will walk with expansiveness, for your precepts I have sought. And I will speak of your testimonies before kings and will not be ashamed. And I will delight myself in your commandments, which I have loved. And I will lift up my palms to your commandments. Ve'asa chapai el mitzvotecha, which I have loved. And I will converse of your statutes. Remember a word for your servant, through which you have given me hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, for your declaration has enlivened me. The arrogant have mocked me endlessly. From your Torah I have not inclined away. I have remembered your eternal laws, Adonai, and I am comforted by them. Burning indignation gripped me because of the wicked who forsake your Torah. Songs of praise have your statutes become to me. Zmirot hayu li chukecha, in a house of my lodging. I have remembered in the night your name, Adonai, and I have observed your Torah. This became mine, for your precepts I have kept. My portion is Adonai. I have declared that I would observe your words. I have pleaded for your presence with a whole heart. Chaneni ki imratecha. Be gracious to me as is your declaration. I considered my ways and returned my feet to your testimonies. I hurried and did not delay to observe your commandments. Bands of wicked have surrounded me. Your Torah I have not forgotten. Chatzot laila akum. In the middle of the night I will rise to give thanks to you. On account of your laws of justice, a companion am I. For all those who are in awe of you and observe your precepts, your kindness, Adonai, fills the earth. Your statutes teach me. Good you have acted with your servant, Adonai, as is your word. Good sense and intimate knowledge teach me, for in your commandments I have believed. Before I was afflicted, I erred. But now your declarations I observe. Good are you and good making. Teach me your statutes. Pinned upon me are lies of the arrogant. I with a whole heart will keep your precepts. Thick like fat is their heart. I, in your Torah, delight. It is good for me that I was afflicted in order that I might learn your statutes. Better for me is the Torah of your mouth than thousands of gold and silver. Your hands have made me and set me in place. Give me understanding that I may learn your commandments. They that are in awe of you will see me and be happy, because for your word I had hoped. I know, Adonai, for just are your judgments, and that in faithfulness you have afflicted me. May it be, please, that your kindness comforts me, as is your declaration to your servant. Let come to me your tender compassion, ve'echyeh, that I may live, for your Torah is my delight. Let the arrogant be ashamed, for with a lie they have defamed me. I will meditate in your precepts. Let return to me those who are in awe of you and those who know your testimonies. Let my heart be undivided in your statutes, in order that I not be shamed. Failing is my soul for your deliverance, for in your word do I hope. My eyes are failing for your declaration, saying, when will you comfort me? For I am like a skin flask in smoke. Your statutes I have not forgotten. How many are the days of your servant? Will you execute on my pursuers a judgment? The arrogant have dug pits for me, which is not according to your Torah. All your commandments are faithful. A lie. They pursue me. Help me. Almost they consumed me upon earth, but as for me, I did not forsake your precepts. As is your kindness, enliven me, and I will observe testimony of your mouth. Forever, Adonai, your word stands firm in heaven. For generation to generation is your faithfulness. You have set it in its place, the earth, and it stands. For your judgments, they stand this day for all your servants. If not for your Torah that I so delight, then I would have perished in my affliction. Forever I will not forget your precepts, for with them you enliven me. For you am I. Deliver me. For your precepts I have sought. For me the wicked have waited to destroy me. Your testimonies I will engage to understand. For every failing I have seen an end. Very expansive is your commandment. How I have loved your Torah. All the day it is my conversation. Beyond my enemies, your commandments makes me wise. For eternally it is mine. Beyond all my teachers, Mikol melamdai hiskalti. I have gained reason, for your testimonies are my conversation. Beyond the elders is my understanding, for your precepts I have kept. For every evil way I've restrained my feet, in order that I might observe your word. For from your laws I have not turned aside, for you have instructed me. How sweet to my palate is your declaration, more than honey to my mouth. From your precepts I gain understanding, therefore I hate every way of falsehood. Ner leragli devarecha, a lamp to my feet is your word, and light to my root. I have sworn and will maintain to observe your law of justice. I'm afflicted very much, Adonai. Enliven me, as is your word. Free will offerings of my mouth, please accept. Nidvot pi retzena, Adonai. And your law teach me. My soul is in my palm always, and your Torah I have not forgotten. The wicked have set a trap for me. Yet your precepts I have not strayed. Your testimonies are my heritage forever. For rejoicing of my heart are they. I have inclined my heart to do your statutes forever at every step. Double talkers I have hated, but your Torah I have loved. My hiding place and my shield are you. In your word do I hope. Turn aside from me, evildoers, and I may keep the commandments of my God. Uphold me, as is your declaration, that I will live, and let me not be shamed in my expectation. Support me, and I shall be delivered. I will occupy myself with your statutes always. You trample all who err from your statutes, for false is their deceit. Dross you have discarded, all the wicked of the earth. Therefore I have loved your testimonies. Shuddering from fright of you is my flesh, and your law I am in awe. I have done law and justice. Do not leave me to my oppressors. Guarantee for your servant for good. Let not the arrogant oppress me. My eyes fail for your deliverance and for your declaration of justice. Do with your servant as is your kindness, and your statutes teach me. Avdecha ani, your servant am I. Give me understanding, and I will know your testimonies. Eit la'asot la'Adonai heferu Toratecha. It is time to do for Adonai, they who have violated your law. Therefore I have loved your commandments above gold and above fine gold. Therefore all precepts, every one I consider upright. Every path of falsehood I have hated. Wondrous are your testimonies, therefore my soul has kept them. Opening of your words illuminates, giving understanding to the simple. My mouth I opened wide and eagerly swallowed. Because of your commandments I longed. Turn towards me and be gracious to me, as is your law for lovers of your name. My footsteps are made firm by your declaration, and let not rule over me any wrongdoing. Redeem me from your oppression of a mortal, and I will observe your precepts. Panecha ha'er ba'avdecha, your face shine on your servant, and teach me your statutes. Streams of water descend from my eyes for those who do not observe your Torah. Just are you, Adonai, and upright is your law. You have commanded justice by your testimonies, and faith greatly. I am undone by my zeal, for my foes have forgotten your words. Your declaration is exceedingly refined, and your servant loves it. Young am I and despised, yet your precepts I have not forgotten. Your justice is a justice everlasting, and your Torah is truth. Trouble and distress have found me. Your commandments are my delight. Just are your testimonies forever. Give me understanding. Ve'echyeh, and I shall live. I have called with a whole heart. Answer me, Adonai. Your statutes I will keep. I have called you. Deliver me, and I will observe your testimonies. I arose at dawn and cried out. For your word I hoped. My eyes perceived the night watches. to meditate on your declaration. Hear my voice, as is your kindness, Adonai. As is your law, enliven me. They draw near, pursuers of loathsomeness. From your Torah they are distant. Close are you, Adonai, and all your commandments are truth. Kedim yadati me'edotecha. Of old I have known of your testimonies. Because of eternity you founded them. See my affliction and rescue me. For your Torah I have not forgotten. Argue my argument and redeem me toward your declaration. Enliven me. Distant are the wicked from deliverance. For your statutes they do not seek. Your compassions are many, Adonai. Your law enlivens me. Many are my pursuers and my foes. From your testimonies I did not lean away. I saw betrayers and was disgusted with them. Because your declaration they did not observe. See, for your precepts I have loved, Adonai. As is your kindness enlivens me. Ahead of your word is truth, and forever is all law of your justice. Princes have pursued me without cause, but your words prompt fear in my heart. I rejoice at your declarations as a finder of much spoil. Lies I have hated and abhorred. Your Torah I have loved. 7 times a day do I praise you on account of laws of your justice. Peace is abundant for lovers of your Torah, and for them there is no stumbling. I have waited for your deliverance, Adonai, and your commandments I have done. My soul has observed your testimonies, and I love them very much. I have observed your precepts and your testimonies, for all my ways are before you. Tikra vrinati lefanecha. Let come nearer my song before you, Adonai. As is your word, give me understanding. Let come my plea before you, as is your declaration, save me. Let my lips utter praise because you teach me your statutes. Let my tongue echo your declaration, for all your commandments are just. Let your hand be for help to me. For your precepts I have chosen. I have longed for your deliverance, Adonai, and your Torah is my delight. Enliven my soul, and it shall praise you, and let your laws help me. Ta'iti kiseh oved. I have strayed like a lost sheep. Bakesh avdecha ki mitzvotecha lo shechachti. Seek your servant, for your commandments I have not forgotten.
Yishar koach.
Thank you. And so, I catch my breath. I hope you feel why I felt the need to read it, because the medium is the message. It is unprecedented in the Bible. It's the longest chapter of the Bible, the longest psalm, the longest acrostic. The medium is the message of those waves of longing for God and seeing God's teachings as the bridge of connection, both to God and to a life of security, aware that life is filled with those who are a threat to the psalmist. Unclear who the psalmist is. Here's something interesting to note. Our rabbis, as you might expect, often see this as a psalm written by David. The interesting piece added to that is that in the Orthodox Church, this psalm, like Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox, is read at midnight every night. And they say this is a psalm that David wrote to teach Solomon, his son, both the Aleph-Bet, how to read, and how to live a spiritual life. And so it has a central place, Psalm 119, in the Orthodox Church. It's also part of Mass in the Catholic Church from time to time. Again, it is so long. And in the Jewish tradition, because it's so long, it's not part of our prayers as a whole, but there are many verses that are taken from this psalm and incorporated into our prayers. And there is a legal precedent. Et la sot ladonai, it is a time to act on behalf of God. That will be justification by the rabbis in the Talmud to even abrogate a law temporarily for the sake of maintaining Torah as a whole, including the writing down of the oral tradition, which the rabbis would say was meant to be oral, not written down. But at a certain point, wrote it down because they had to preserve it with the hope it would be temporary. So this verse, Eit lasot ladonai, it is time to act for God, will be, and I'll teach on Monday examples from Jewish law when there has been a defining moment of exigency, of emergency, that has allowed for putting aside a law, something kind of dramatic. And again, that phrase, Baruch atah Adonai, found here in the psalm, is the beginning of our prayers. Praised are you, Adonai. That appears here distinctly. So for the Jewish tradition, this lengthy psalm has many verses that find their place in both prayer, in the teaching of the sages of Pirkei Avot. When I paused in my reading and I did some phrases in Hebrew, those were mostly the phrases of which there is the most commentary that I'll be making reference to on Monday. Here's an example. I see my beloved friend Cantor Shula. This is a unique statement. Your testimonies were to me like song. Most see that as a positive expression of love, that word that keeps reappearing, sha'ashua, delight. And yet there will be some rabbis who will say David, in saying that, erred by making light of the testimonies. So on Monday, I will, because I don't want to short shrift us in learning the Psalms, for those who are willing to put wind in my sails, a special class Monday to unpack some of these verses. With that, we're already, at that 40-minute mark. Rather than having you react today, I just invite you to hold on to the flow of the psalm. I'm going to give Deidre a moment to share why this was, even before today, her favorite psalm. I will add that modern commentators vary from some saying it is a masterpiece, one in particular, a Christian Bible commentator, Noel Friedman, who analyzed Psalm 119, finding symmetries that show extraordinary artfulness, will say this is this extraordinary composition. Others will say it's wearisome. It feels repetitive. And we'll leave it to us. In reading it to you, and again, I reread it this morning out loud, I re-recorded it. I was just reminded of its rhythms and how there's a power in those short phrases that allow for something prayerful and powerful. With that, Deidre, as our honoree, Deidre is new to our group. I know she is a deeply curious person in many ways and who uses her mind to explore challenges. So, Deidre, why was this your favorite psalm?
Because for so long I had struggled and kind of grasped at understanding in reading the Tanakh. And it wasn't until I learned to love the Torah and learned to love the mitzvot that it opened. And I was given understanding, and that just made me love them more. And you read this and it's just like a love letter to God about his law. He wants to be involved. He wants to be a framework for your life. And it says, give me understanding so that I can know your law. It's not just understanding to make your brain feel better, it's to learn his mitzvot, to learn his laws, what he wants, what he desires, so that you can understand him better. And approaching it from that perspective, it literally just opened up the entire Tanakh to me. And that's when it started to come alive. And I love to study, I love to learn, and that's how I feel enriched spiritually. So this psalm really resonated with me. It feels like I wrote it, just because that's how I feel in my heart.
Well, that is beautiful description. And in your description, you help me feel that the most recent choice of titles, which is How I Have Loved Your Torah, is maybe the phrase of this psalm that best characterizes why you have loved it, because it is a love letter to God. And at the same time, there is much sense of it being real, namely that back and forth, I call it the wave, is the awareness of his own struggle not to give in to temptations, to stay on the path, to know and remember that that is the path that will allow him to be happy. A closing thought, and then Kaddish, and that is some modern Bible writers say that originally the book of Psalms started with Psalm 1 and ended with Psalm 119, in that it has the same key words as Psalm 1: Ashrei, happy, and derech, the way. That's how Psalm 1 begins, right? Happy are they that Ashrei, one second. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzat rishaim. Happy is the person who has not walked in the counsel of the wicked. Uvederech hata'im lo amad, and on the way of the sinful has not stood. And if you look at what will follow, beginning on Tuesday next week, you get 15 Psalms that are a unit, those Psalms of Ascent. So some Bible commentators believe that it was Psalm 1 to 119 that created the Psalms, and then there were these packets of additional poems that got put together to create the whole. In what is clearly true is that Psalm 119 is long and prayerful and is distinctive in its love of Torah. When the psalmist uses the word Torah, it is possible that it's referring to the written work or the other teachings, or that it's just generic, because there again are all these other synonyms of testimonies, of way, of mitzvot, and not necessarily the book, but it can be either. And it is a love letter when all is said and done. And Deidre, I'm delighted by your explanation and this opportunity to honor you on this, the day of Psalm 119.
Thank you
And
very much.
as this psalm has enlivened you, I love that repeated word of chayaneni, enliven me. May our continued study evoke love of heart and enliven each of us in our own distinctive ways. With that, I do again hope to see everybody next week for part 2 of Psalm 119, where we'll be looking at some of the phrases and how they have been understood and used in our tradition.